You find that instead of doctors and nurses and physiotherapists doing you good, they do you harm. They don't know the condition, and they're not inclined to find out about it. So I have found that they don't. There are official NHS clinical guidelines laid down for the treatment of ME. But doctors and nurses don't even bother reading them.
Horace, if I could stop you there, Mark Robson, who I'm sure many of our listeners will know as a broadcaster, sports broadcaster, commentator who you'll hear on Sky Sports regularly. We, of course, work both here at BBC Northern Ireland and UTV in the past. But Mark, thanks for taking a call this morning. You suffered with ME, and this sort of impression that's been painted by Rod Liddle when you hear this description, of a newly invented illness that makes you feel peaky for decades. I mean, was this an attitude that you thought maybe had passed long ago?
Well, it's born out of ignorance, Joel. I mean, Rod Liddle clearly hasn't suffered from ME, and I think he's a brilliant journalist. I read him most Sundays, but I just find it quite sad that at this day and age there is still that attitude. I mean, it's 30 years now since, 22 years since I contracted it, and I still suffer from it, not as frequently as I did. I get good days and bad days. But it definitely exists. I mean, the word malingerer was used for many years in the early days, and I thought that word had gone away. I mean, when I first got ME, I was playing squash and started to feel ill. I thought I was getting the flu, and that developed into a serious bout of ME. And that's the best way to describe it, is that you feel as if you have the flu. So you've got all the symptoms of the flu, apart from the sniffles and the sore throat, which can last for years. I mean, I had a splitting headache for years. I had sore limbs and joints and nausea, and that dreaded feeling of your head feels as if it's simply made of wet cotton wool. So all your thinking processes become confused. There was no question of malingering. I took 3 months off work, and then I was back into work. It was broadcasting, commentating, presenting, and as soon as I got back to the house, I went to bed for years and years and years. I couldn't exercise for between 6 and 10 years at all. I couldn't even get the bin out to the bottom of the driveway. So it was clearly an illness, and I think I probably forced it on myself by being a freelance journalist in the early days, in my early 20s, and simply pushing too hard. I would work all day. I was working 7 days a week as a freelance, and then I was training twice a day as well. And after the Commonwealth Games in Auckland 1990, I think my immune system basically said, right, sunshine, we've had enough here. And whether it was a link to a virus, which it may have been, my body simply shut down. And that's what I think happens with ME. For some reason that we don't know, whether it's genetic or whether it's caused by virus or pollution or something in the environment, the body simply, I think, shuts itself down for your own protection. That's always what I have felt. As I say, I still get bad days. I've done a couple of mountain marathons in the last 2 years, so not too bad. I'm pretty much back to 90%. But I got some great treatment. The Biocranial Therapy Centre, it's now in Cumber, was fantastic at working on stabilising my immune system and getting my nervous system to function correctly, and other people have helped me too. But basically, I think it's something, whenever you get it, you're stuck with it for life, and you simply have to manage your life accordingly. For anyone like Rod Liddle to say that, I mean, I feel sorry for the lad. I mean, that's sounds like a football cliche, but it's just ignorance. It's nothing more than that on his front. Anyone who used to talk like that to me, I used to say to them, I would love to let you have ME for a fortnight, then come back to me and talk again.
Mm-hmm. Because those people, did you get those people saying to you, or you're imagining it's some sort of fictitious thing in your head?
No, nobody ever said that to me.
They probably knew what your reaction would be.
Yeah, I think they were probably quite frightened as to what they might do if I had the strength.
And you were probably having a sort of a mental strain as well, because you were probably, because everybody remembers you and those nights on UTV with yourself and Mike Nesbitt and Frank Mitchell and Logie, and you were this happy-go-lucky guy, and you were putting almost probably maybe this front on behind the camera, and then, as you're saying, straight home and going to bed and suffering with this.
Well, absolutely. I mean, yeah. To a certain extent, the adrenaline of live television would help, But then, of course, the adrenaline of live television had the effect of draining you even further when the adrenaline wore off. So it was sort of a vicious cycle, and I used to get home after the... I loved my work, even though I was battling through ME, but I would get home. It was like pulling off a rubber mask, and I would just, slump through the door and into bed and do as much as I could to recover. I mean, I had an amazing situation. I don't know if this has ever happened to any other ME sufferers, but I was presenting the championship on the BBC Gaelic football programme, and the top of the show was an auto cue, and my ME was really bad that day, and I was reading the auto cue, and in front of my eyes, the letters started to jumble up. So I was getting dyslexia as I read the auto cue. And I then spent several years from that point on, I couldn't really use auto cue. I sort of I could use it as a guide, but had to memorise most of it, which is probably quite a good thing for a broadcaster. But to this day, I mean, with the ME and the, if you like, the download effect of it, I still have words that I can't read and I can't spell, and that's been a long-term effect of the ME. So, if that's malingering, the onset of dyslexia, then I'm afraid, Mr. Liddle, you've got it very wrong.
Mark, the other interesting point, were your employers during the various stages of your career aware of this, or was there a point when you thought, I'm going to have to make people aware of this?
Well, I didn't allow my employers to know. I mean, I moved to England to work for Sky and then Eurosport, Channel 5 and ITV and various channels over there. And they never knew at any stage that I had ME. So all I did was manage it. I mean, I didn't have a social life at all. I used to have phenomenal exit strategies for social occasions, which to an extent I still do, because I have to manage the energy levels in my system.
I thought it was just my company, Mark.
You're one of my best exit strategies.
It's reassuring. Mark,
you're a good excuse to go home.
Who are your